Penny Nance from from Concerned Women for America. And Penny, thank you for so much for taking the time on Sunday night to call in. And
Of course. Thank you, Matt, for having me on. I appreciate it. I appreciate everything that you and Breitbart Radio does. I appreciate your work.
And so, one of the things we had of a big story on the site on Saturday, right before we had National Organization for Marriage calling out one of the other key groups that's really pressuring these various Republicans who want to cave all the time, it seems, like calling out Senator Rubio, is you with a big statement praising Governor Scott Walker for laying out the path forward here, which is really the only way forward is a constitutional amendment, right? I mean, a constitutional marriage amendment.
Well, we have a couple of choices. We can all become Benedictine monks and go start monasteries in the woods. Like this is what Saint Benedict, I guess, did in response to what he saw in Rome. Or we can clear our throats. We can lean forward. We can have a conversation with our neighbors. And we can try to do something practical to protect ourselves and to lead our country forward. And really, in response to correcting what the court did, and by the way, it was only 5 members of a 9-member court with 1 swing member, which is Justice Kennedy. What we can do is a couple things. We can try to go forward with a constitutional amendment, and I do appreciate very much so that Scott Walker was very plain-spoken, very forthright. He showed a lot of leadership, but also Mike Huckabee and also Ted Cruz. So the rest of the field wasn't nearly as forthright and didn't show the same amount of leadership. And although they all voiced concern, I really didn't see them leaning forward in their posture the way those 3 did. The other piece of the puzzle is, what does the next court look like? And I don't know if Brian went into some of the other cases that are coming through. What we're going to be facing next, Matt, is polygamy. Now that we've devalued marriage and said that marriage is no longer between a man and a woman, as we've all understood for the past 2,000 years in every major religion, we've devalued it into something less, and we've allowed moral relativism to redefine it. And so what's the next definition? We can make the same arguments we made for gay marriage for polygamy. It's a different kind of love. It's consenting adults who love each other and are joined together and committed to each other. Who are we to argue? Why are they unfit to raise children? So that's the next conversation we'll be having. And when those come through, there's a case in Utah and a case in Texas and come before the Supreme Court. If we have a different president and hopefully 2 or 3 new justices, then perhaps we can, change the definition and make sense of all of this. But this is going to be a lot of work, regardless.
You know what was really, I really wasn't too shocked by Governor Jeb Bush's response to this, which, he really kind of takes the left flank of the Republican Party as much as he possibly can. But who really shocked me was Senator Rubio. Right? And so Senator Rubio, who has consistently and repeatedly said that he stands up for traditional marriage, comes out and says, you know what, the court made its decision, it's time we follow it, it's time to back down. I'm paraphrasing here, of course, I'm not reading his exact quote, I don't have it in front of me. But, it's time to back down. And, he had previously at one point or another indicated support for a marriage amendment. I know he did in a survey back when he was running for Senate. He says now that he never did and that survey is a mistake and whatever. But, I mean, I
need to go back and look at my old surveys. So I bet I have one on him, too.
Do you think he did? You might. Well, let's follow up on that definitely. But the key thing is I mean, when you see a guy out there who has really positioned himself, when he's given speeches and whatnot. I mean, he speaks at the FRC summit. I mean, this guy has consistently positioned himself as a social conservative. Yet, when here's the opportunity, here's the chance, right? I mean, what's your take on that? I don't
know. I want to give him a chance to correct it, because if we've misunderstood what he has said, then he needs to correct that. I mean, I'm surprised too, because what I know of him is a man who is very committed to the things that I believe in marriage and life. I'm surprised if he's waffling, but I'll be looking the next day or two. The other one that's really shocking is Rand Paul. Nothing. Crickets.
Nothing. Right. No, it's really shocking. And, I think it says a lot about a lot of these politicians. And so
it does. You know what? It does.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is a moment of leadership.
Mm-hmm.
You know, great leaders don't come about when things are easy.
Right.
Great leaderships are the men and women who step forward and are courageous when during troubled times. And if these guys can't lead now, forget about it, because it's only going to get worse from here. I'm sorry. I mean, as a believer, as a Christian, I think we're looking ahead to some really stormy times, and we've got to work really hard to protect ourselves and protect our families and protect our pastors as much as possible. And we'll be looking to do that also through legislation, through the First Amendment Defense Act, which is Mike Lee and Raul Lavador's bill.
So,
but these guys, this is their chance. This is a chance to prove who they are. And if they can't do it now, then they're never going to do it.
So now, all right. So one of the other things I think that's, and we got into this a little bit with Brian before in the last segment, that I think is absolutely crucial for these guys to talk about. I think there's going to be 4 maybe current Supreme Court justices who might retire in the next presidential term, and it's going to be absolutely crucial for these guys to lay out what it is that they're looking for in Supreme Court justices, but also in judicial appointments throughout the system, because those are the guys that rise up later and get higher appointments. And so what is it that you're looking for in a Republican nominee, or a Republican presidential candidates who might eventually become the nominee, that about judicial appointments? What are the qualifications? How do they have to talk about this? What is it that they need to say? How do they need to lay it out?
Well, it's interesting you're asking this, because I actually asked this question to Jeb Bush about a week ago when he was meeting with some leaders. We were co-sponsors of the Road to Majority Conference in Washington, and he was there, and he met with a group of us, and I asked the first question, and this was it. This was the question, because you're right. There are 2, 3, 4. The court is going to change in the next 4 years, or 5 years. So it's going to be essential. I mean, this is it. Everything that we hope to do, that we need to protect, is going to come under assault and probably go before the court. So we have got to make sure we get this right. We can't mess up this time.
Right.
And we can't have another Souter. We can't have another Kennedy. Reagan gave us Kennedy. Bush gave us Souter.
But, I mean, Reagan only gave us Kennedy after Bork went down.
That's right. But you know what? There should have been another Bork, and another Bork, and another Bork, and another Bork. So I asked him, and actually I have to tell you that Jeb Bush answered this very well. Now, I'm a little concerned.
Well, his brother gave us Roberts, who gave us Obamacare twice.
Well, that's right, and that was the point. Like, how do you do? And he said, look, I think and I agree with this, that we had it wrong, that, people were hoping in order to have an easy confirmation, it was good to have people without a record. Well, that doesn't work, because even though you think you know them or your friends, and Sununu was the one that reassured Bush about Souter. Right. And he depended on him as his friend, and he believed him, and he's still his friend. But friends make mistakes. We all make mistakes. You need a record. And he talked about needing a record. You need to see what people have done in the fire. What have they said? What is are they constitutionalists? Are they going to make it up out of thin air? What are they going to do when they're faced with public pressure on their opinion? And I think he's right about that. I think that's going to be really important.
So in the last couple of minutes we got left here, can you walk us through, without getting into more of the politics of all of this, with the Republican primary and the really like a jungle that we're seeing unfold in front of us, but more of the policy, right? In the next steps in the policy, how is it that people who are concerned and want traditional marriage are going to fight back against this? What are the next steps? Walk us through the pathway over the next several months and next several years.
Well, I mean, without giving you an actual timeline, but I want to say something too. Here we are on a Sunday, and this is really important. And I'm a believer, and this is most of us, our reaction to this is based on faith and the fact that as believers and how we understand marriage to be defined and what we believe is good for our culture and civilization. The first thing we've got to do is pray. We have got to, before God, repent, because you know what? We devalued marriage before the other team even got their hands on it. I mean, with the American church, Our marriages are in shambles. There's divorce, there's cohabitation, there's all the sin that the Bible talks about in addition to homosexuality. So we've got to own that, because that is absolutely ours. And 2 Chronicles 7:14 says, if my people will call on my name and repent, I will hear from heaven and I will heal their land. And that's what we've got to pray for. And then we've got to get up, because CWA is built on prayer and action, get up off our knees, and we've got to do something.